Hello and welcome. My name is Emily Prieto, and I'm the co-founder of Seeds of Tao, alongside my husband, Joshua Prieto. If you're new to the podcast, this is a podcast for impact entrepreneurs creating regenerative enterprises. We often get asked what exactly a regenerative enterprise or impact entrepreneur is. So if you're wondering, a regenerative enterprise builds triple bottom line profits through the practice of ethics and principles that lead to a more inclusive, fair, and balanced economy. Impact entrepreneurs, or regenpreneurs as we like to call them, are those willing and able to take on the financial and personal risks of starting and building regenerative enterprises. You'll get to know exactly what all that means as you join us for this and future episodes, but know that we welcome everyone to join us as we work to build regenerative economies together. That's exactly why we're doing what we do at Seeds of Tao. Our mission is to help establish regenerative economies in every bioregion by serving individual regenpreneurs like yourself. In this podcast, you'll hear the startup stories in all their glory from impact entrepreneurs all over the globe. You'll learn and grow the skills of building a regenerative enterprise from your peers, mentors, and leaders. Finally, we'll get to know each other as you engage in the podcast and join the wonderful regenerative business economies ecosystem, aka Regen B, an open community where peers, colleagues, funders, allies, and supporters of regenpreneurs come together to build the regenerative economies of the future. Join us every month for a wonderful episode as we collectively move beyond sustainability and into our regenerative future. It all starts now.
Welcome back to the Seeds of Tao podcast. My name is Joshua Prieto, and I am going to be going through the archives of our regenerative entrepreneurial stories today. Really, we're trying to make sure that we bring forward these regenerative entrepreneurial stories that I've been holding in the archives for a little bit, because there's a lot of great narratives that are being told in different sectors of the regenerative movement. And we're trying to make sure that we're bringing light to them. And like I mentioned last week in last week's show, we are focusing this month on the land and nature stewardship realm of the permaculture flower. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the permaculture flower, there's 7 realms that are specifically focused in on different areas that humans interact with our ecosystems and nature, and being able to design our own efforts to be regenerative. The permaculture flower gives us a good understanding of different ways that we're already impacting our environment, but how can we change those into regenerative outcomes for everybody involved, the people, planet, and future generations, all stakeholders, and valuing all capital forms and flows as we do so. And so we are really focusing in on this. So we're going back into the archive of entrepreneurial stories that we have recorded over the years. And this one's actually coming back from January 2024, where I had Jonathan Appel share his journey as an entrepreneur in the space of these of waste, actually. And their business, their startup, Eden Energy, is really doing some fascinating things. And since we've had that conversation back in early 2024, they've been really ramping up their own ability. They were just starting out, so it's kind of a good way to kind of go back and look and see where someone was just even a year ago, or a startup was just even a year ago, and see how the progression is come along. But really, this is again in alignment with our land and nature stewardship realm that we're focusing on. And it's going to be coming in from a different angle, where waste is a huge challenge in our current economy. And we're going to need to find ways of reducing and even producing no waste in our future economy, in this regenerative economy that we're building together. And as we do so, this is going to be impacting and creating greater responsibility for us to nurture our land and nature realm of the permaculture flower. So as we talk about this, we are gearing up for this think tank where we're going to explore more narratives that are happening in these different realms of the permaculture flower, right? And so be thinking of the different narratives that are out there. We in the land and nature stewardship realm, we've mentioned a couple. We've mentioned there's the soil narrative, right? We have a really strong soil narrative out there that's progressing and doing really great things in regenerative agriculture. There's even a really strong narrative for water, though I would hope that we would really focus in on that narrative of water and recognize that water as, grandmother to all life on this planet. And that's another narrative. And then we have this narrative that we're going to be talking about today that Jonathan really clearly advocates for, and that is the one of producing no waste and turning our waste into energy. And that's this now conversation that we have with Jonathan. And so I really invite you to join us as we explore another narrative that's greatly important to the regenerative movement and see ways that we can lift this narrative up. And if you have your own narratives and thoughts, or you want to be joining hands with others that are building narratives in soil, water, waste, all of these different pieces that are helping the land and nature to be stewarded in the right way, then come join us for the think tank next month. It's on the first Wednesday of the month. And we look forward to all folks coming in and being a part of this as we build out a media alliance to build and strengthen these narratives for the regenerative movement and for businesses that are really needing these narratives to help transition these cultures in our current culture into spaces that create the regenerative outcomes that we are desiring here. So with that, I'm grateful for the time that we get to spend together in these podcasts and the conversations that I have with those that are bringing in these rich regenerative stories and doing the work. And I would love for you to take part in this journey as we share what Jonathan has been doing with Eden Energy. Let's dive into it. Welcome, Jonathan, to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful, Joshua. Thank you for having me. Excited to be a part of it.
It's good to have you. Yeah, it's I got to hear some of your story in our kind of pre interview, and I'm really excited to dive further into it. Jonathan, and I never really asked the pronunciation of your last name. Was it Jonathan Appel? Am I right?
Appel, yes, Appel.
Okay. Yeah. So, what time is it? I think you're Pacific. Where are you at right now?
Well, right now I'm in Austin. Just north of Austin in Leander, Texas. We're in our development center here for our company, Eden Energy Solutions. It's 10:09 a.m. for us.
Okay, so you're same time zone as me. I didn't know Texas was Eastern.
Texas is Central. I'm sorry. It's 9:09. My computer is still on Eastern time. That is my mistake. I haven't reset my computer since we traveled here. My co-founder, wife, and life partner, we live in Florida. So all my electronics that don't automatically update are still on Eastern time, and I forgot about that. So yes,
I do that all the time.
It's 9:09 for us.
Yeah. No worries. So you kind of do both areas quite a bit. You're in Texas. You're in Florida. You live in Florida, but you do a lot of work in Texas. You have your base camp in Texas, so to speak, right? Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Well, yeah. So I think you have like a few more weeks before you head home. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll probably head back towards the end of next week. We're doing a big demonstration showcase here for a bunch of potential investors and collaborators here this coming Sunday. So it's been a little bit of a grind getting the place ready and getting the presentations and things set up. But we're super excited. We've got about 25 people heading out here to our center on Sunday. So it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of good times.
Cool. Yeah, it brings me to my first question, because I really want the audience to get to know you, Jonathan, as the entrepreneur of a regenerative enterprise. Just tell us what got you up this morning, and let's dive into a little bit of the day in the life of Jonathan Appel.
Sure. A lot of people, when they hear about my daily regimen, they think I'm a little crazy. But I haven't set an alarm clock for years, and I'm up pretty much every day before 5 a.m. I hear a call. It's time to wake up and it's time to get moving. And I think it's because I'm so passionate and so happy with what I get to do, right? A lot of people wake up every day and say they have to go to work. I wake up every day and say, I get to do this. I mean, I don't know if we're going to be on video, but if somebody can see what's behind me, I've got tons of very cool scientific equipment here. And this is what I get to do, right? I get to live every scientist's dream on creating something truly extraordinary. And it's been a wonderful journey. So I'm up pretty much every day before 5. I try to get a little bit of meditation in with my first cup of coffee, and try to get to the gym by about 5:30. Try to work out for about an hour each morning, as long as I'm not on the move or the hotel I'm staying in has a gym. I don't go insanely out of my way to get to the gym, but I try to get there 5 or 6 days a week when I can. And then I'm usually in my office chair by about 7:30, getting my emails and everything done for the day first thing in the morning. And if I'm here in Texas, it's by about 8:30, I'm in the lab getting done whatever experiments need to get done that day. So it's one of those things where I get to wake up and really enjoy every single day. It was actually for the first time in about 3 years, over Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I took back-to-back days off where I did no work. And it was the first time where I took back-to-back days off since the pandemic, really. So it's been a grind. And but when you love what you do, when you're passionate about what you do, it's not a grind, really. It's enjoyable, right?
Mm-hmm. It's excitement. It's a part of what gets you up in the morning, and that's very much what it sounds like, for sure. I am a morning person myself. I'm sure there's people listening to you like, oh man, I cannot believe you before 5 a.m. and without an alarm. You know what, I can do that most days, but my alarm, my alarm is like that ability. I seem to wake up right before my alarm. Right. It's like my body just kind of understands that it's coming. Right. And then the alarm goes, but I have like this, like the Google routines, whatever. So it turns into a podcast, and then it goes, it sets me up for my day. I really actually I used to hate alarms for the longest time. And now they have like really cool things where you can like have your podcast play in the morning, or have, I have a morning meditation that goes on to a podcast, right? So I'm a morning person too. I love that's you kind of get excited. You don't even have to use your alarm. You just kind of get into it. And the work that you do is enjoyable for you. I can see the equipment. The audience isn't going to be able to see the equipment, but tell us more about the excitement that is your work. What gets you excited to do the work that you do?
It's well, and we're going to get into the story here and talk a little bit about what has led me to this point in my life. But my entire life has been around cleaning up the world and making the world a better place. When we were kids, we called my father God's janitor because the basis of the technology that we're using here today, he created all those years ago. So it's really a part of who I am to make sure that this world is a better place than when I leave it. And the fact that my family has created this amazing revolutionary technology that has, by all means, transcended anything we know about waste disposal and regenerative energy creation. The excitement that I get to have every day is incomparable for any scientist. I mean, what we're working on here, I truly believe is going to revolutionize many industries, waste disposal, food industries, because now a slaughterhouse can power their facility from the waste that they were paying to have towed away, right? So for me, my excitement, my passion is knowing that we've got something that works. We have something that isn't just this could work if X, Y, and Z are coming to play. No, this thing works, period. There's no if, ands, or buts. There's no incentives. None of it's needed. It is viable in and of itself. And every day I get to wake up and say, I get to be a part of this. I get to be somebody that leads this charge forward. And people say they need motivation. My motivation it's not motivation, it's passion. I don't even need to think about it. I just drive. I just go and go, because it's truly special what I get to be a part of, and the team that we've assembled behind this group. We're all cut from the same cloth, not a greedy bone in anyone's body, and everybody is just so excited to do great for this world, do great for the planet, do great for humanity. So it's really been a truly special time as we've been growing this organization.
That's cool. And you said a couple of things there that I just want to iterate on and talk for a moment about. Just as an entrepreneur, when you're creating something, a lot of times you don't know if it's going to be a solution. You don't know if it's going to be you don't know if it's going to sink or float, essentially. But the conviction, a lot of times, is with the entrepreneur. What you're saying is, I know this is a solution. That's always a very reassuring thing for an entrepreneur, to know that the science works, or the product is aligned, and now it's a matter of just like getting it out there, and that drive. Whereas some of us on the entrepreneurial scale are a little bit, we're still experimenting. We're still trying to figure out the right solution that we're trying to build, or that we feel called to build to, right? Right. So yeah, there is a little bit of that. I can sense that in your tone and the work that you're doing. Is like, this needs to be in so many places. I know it works. We need to get it there. Let's do it. And that energy is feeling you. I can see that.
Exactly.
It really does drive you. So, the kind of question that I want to lead into this is, now I'm sure those that are listening are a little curious to know what it is exactly that we're talking about here. So just share with us the work that you're doing, the business that you have, the name of it, and then we'll dive into the story of how it all came to be.
Sure. Well, the company's name is Eden Energy Solutions, right? And our mission and vision is to restore this world to its Eden-like state by ridding it of pollution and waste, and in doing so, creating clean, regenerative energy from those harmful compounds and waste. So the technology is essentially a reverse engineering of Mother Nature, right? Mother Nature takes waste carbon underneath its surface, and through heat, pressure, and time, and a million years later, we have natural gas, we have crude oil, we have all these different energy components that we're using that we call fossil fuels, right? And whether they are fossil fuels or not, that's not for the debate today, even though there are some really interesting theories like the depot biosphere, which talks about essentially carbon being created from the carbon underneath the surface. And that theory that it was dinosaurs might not be what we think it's true. We think the earth might actually be creating oil in and of itself, which means we would never run out, right? So that's an interesting theory. Adam Gould, I believe, is the author of the Depot Biosphere. It's a really interesting book if anybody's interested in checking that out. But essentially what the process does, it's an 8-stage process with each stage having its own critical components to making sure the end products are as clean and pure as they are. So it's essentially a hydrothermal technology where we use water, heat, and pressure in various stages to break down carbon bonds to turn them into their shortest components, right? Everybody's heard of methane. Right? Methane is natural gas. All methane is CH4, right? It's one carbon chain with 4 hydrogens surrounding it, right? Propane is 2 carbon chain, right? And as you keep going up, pentane is 5 carbon chains, and pentane, the listeners can't see this, but this gasoline that we've created from here contains some pentane and some oh my gosh, I'm forgetting my hydrocarbon names for a second, putting me on the spot. But C6s, C7s, C8s, and those are just your carbon chain length. Then you start getting into the kerosene, which is C9, C10, C11, C12s. So that's all carbons are, right? Hydrocarbon, it's carbon and hydrogens, right? So what we're able to do is using heat and pressure, we're able to take all these advanced hydrocarbons and carbon molecules, like we're a carbon-based being, and we're able to break those carbons down, strip out the waters, strip out all the chlorines, the sodiums, all the metal components and everything, and just have the hydrocarbons left over. And all the materials that we separated, we're able to convert into fertilizers or whatever it may be. So essentially what we do is we take waste carbon and we turn them into clean, regenerative, carbon neutral fuels and organic fertilizers through a series of processes.
Very cool. Very interesting.
To sum it up.
Yeah. And so this has implications for several industries, and so tell us a little bit more just about where it's being applied right now, or where you hope to apply it, and kind of where you're at in the stage of this business. And then I want to dive us back, and so I want to see where it all came from. How did you get to this point?
Sure. Well, right now we're raising funds to build our set of mobile systems, right? We've built this technology in its earlier infancy stages at 250 tons per day. We've built it a couple times at 15 tons per day. We've designed several facilities over 1,500 tons a day, but certain circumstances didn't allow those to be built. And we'll get into some of those situations here in a little bit. But what I realized is a lot of the issues that we had in the past trying to get this technology to the world all came about not from the technology side, but from the business plan side, right? How we were rolling the technology out. Mm-hmm. Building these big biorefineries, and this is part of entrepreneurs these days, is decentralizing systems, right? But these big biorefineries were very centralized, right? The refinery was in one location. You had to bring all the waste to the refinery. You had to process it at the biorefinery, and then you had to sell the fuel somewhere, right? So too many logistics, too many issues, too many places where something can go haywire. What we decided to do is, instead of having this big facility, build portable, scalable, and modular units. So now, let's use Tyson Foods, right? They're someone that we've worked with in the past, the big chicken producer, right? Tyson has, let's say, a chicken facility killing 20,000 birds a day, right? Now, instead of them having all the bones, the guts, the bloods, the feathers, all the products that they're really not using shipped out to some rendering facility, they pop it into one of our systems, create these regenerative products. They power their facility from the waste using the fuels, right? You burn the fuels in a generator right on site. You power your facility with those carbon neutral regenerative fuels. And then they're also left over with amazing fertilizers that they now have a product that they can sell from their waste. So it's a full, complete circular life cycle. So there's no waste. They don't have to ship anything out. The only byproduct is a water stream, which will meet all chemical oxygen demand and biological oxygen demand, BOD and COD. Those are the two requirements that they have for wastewater for discharge. It'll meet all those requirements for city discharge. Or if they're in an arid climate, you could use that water for irrigation or put it through an RO system and create drinkable or potable water. So it's a complete recycling system. That's really, at the end of the day, that's what we've got. So any waste producer can now become a clean energy producer. And that's the key. It's a decentralization of this system.
That's very cool. The implications, again, are just huge on so many levels of where you can apply this, because anywhere there's waste, essentially, right? Which is almost every industry in our system right now, So we're trying to find ways, and this is a great solution. So what you're saying, this is something that works and can work, and so now it's getting the funding, getting the pieces to scale the impact of Eden Energy. Well,
exactly.
This is really a really cool moment that you're in right now. But I want to take us back to wherever this started to begin. Maybe you said this was originally your father's idea and brainchild, right? So maybe we take it there, or wherever you feel like the story begins. Take us back and let's start the story of this business.
Well, considering the spiritual connection of this podcast, right? Seeds of Tao, right? We know there's a spiritualness to it. I think we got to tell the whole story. I think I kind of mentioned it, some of it to you. So if somebody dug into who my father was, they would find out he's not a classically trained scientist. Only my dad grew up pretty poor, actually. Only reason he went to college was he was an All-American basketball player. He was a 6'5" point guard. And that was the only reason he went to school. Got a liberal arts degree, did some pretty cool stuff. Ended up becoming the EVP of the founding EVP of Ticketmaster. And then when it was bought out by some Wall Street bankers in the late or mid 80s, he was an old hippie. So he has to be bought out. And him and my mom did some traveling, and they ended up in Chichen Itza during the spring equinox in 1985. Uh-huh. And if people are unfamiliar, Chichen Itza is one of the most grand temples built by the Mayan culture in the Yucatan. And on the equinoxes, a shadow of the feathered serpent god Kukulkan, because of the angle of the sun, crawls down the temple, right? And it was pouring rain when my parents were there, and they had paid this little Mayan girl to give them a private tour. And they said, "Sir, it's time to go to the temple. It's time for the ceremony." And my dad said, "We're not going to see anything. It's pouring rain." She goes, "No, sir, you don't understand the power of the Maya." So they go back to the temple, and he swears there was this huge crash of thunder. The sky opened up. Kukulkan crawled down the shadow of Kukulkan crawled down the temple. The sky closed, and it started raining again. And he had a massive spiritual awakening. My father is a 6'5" Irish guy who considers himself Mayan Indian at this point. He's read the Mayan Bible several times. He can read the hieroglyphics. He spent a lot of time in the Yucatan after that, has even dug some of his own artifacts. So he's done some pretty cool stuff when it comes to the Maya. But in 1996, we were down there as a family, and we saw a Mayan shaman. And at the time, my father was just getting out. He had been doing import-export for a while, did pretty well for himself, but he was thinking it was time for something different. We saw this shaman, and the shaman basically said to him that he's going to create something that's going to clean up the world. And it was a couple months later. He was at this energy conference with some of his pretty cool connections. I mean, even to this day, I worked with my father for about 15 years, and even to this day, he still surprises me with people that he knows. The guy's got a network of connections like that I couldn't believe. He meets a couple people with some of these ideas. Some of them related to pyrolysis and gasification and all these things. But my old man looked at it and said, these technologies work, but they're not energy efficient. They don't create great products. There's got to be a better way to do it. And over a significant amount of time and a lot of research and investments and a lot of ups and downs, we developed a technology that started really doing well. And over the years, we were able to really bring it to where it is. We had some major drawbacks. His original company tried to go public the week of the stock market crash in 2008. So the week of the huge crash, they had an IPO release, and it just collapsed everything. The company had to file for bankruptcy. They came out of it, and that was right when I joined around 2008. And I started doing research and experiments and learning the family business. I was about 17 at the time. Or actually, no, it was 2006 I joined. I was about 17. And I did a lot of stuff with the company. By 2008, 2009, I was basically the head of R&D, doing most of the research, doing all the new testing and everything. And I was young, but I had been a part of it my whole life and career. So it was really cool. I got getting to be a part of that. And 2012 rolls around, and the biofuel market in the US completely collapsed. So we tried to figure out a few different ways, and a guy from Turkey ended up called my father and said, "I'm interested in working with you guys." And we ended up really liking the company. And we ended up forming a Turkish partnership where when people hear of the co-founder of our organization, her name is Gözde. She's my wife, but also our chief marketing officer. But I met her when I was living over there, further developing this tech. Things were going great in Turkey. We had a really amazing group there. I mean, we were really excited. We built one of these biorefineries there, getting ready to build bigger plants. And then in July of 2016, there was the failed coup d'etat. and the country kind of went belly up. It went from about 2.5 lira to the dollar. I think today it's nearly 30 lira to the dollar. And when you have a Turkish partner, I mean, things kind of fall apart when they see their currency devalued that much, right? So I came back to the US, did a few other things, got involved with a stem cell startup and was a founding partner there, and had some interesting revelations about the medical industry and some of the different things that go on behind the scenes of the pharmaceutical industry and medical research. And I really didn't like what I saw. It was not an industry I really wanted to be a part of after a couple of years. And then with the pandemic, it was my way to get out of that industry. And then about 6 months after that, I got a phone call from somebody and that I need to talk to one of your other guests that you had on, Jim Gale from Food Forest Abundance. So Jim was just getting ready to launch Food Forest Abundance. He had started it in Florida, but he was getting ready to do the national and international launch. And somebody told him that he thinks that I could be a help. And I got on the phone with Jim, and about 30 minutes later, I was working for him. So it was me and Jim hit it off great. I mean, my nickname growing up was Johnny Appleseed. So working for a regenerative agriculture company as a named Johnny Appleseed pretty much my whole life, it was fitting. And then I helped Jim grow that company and build it. I mean, he's truly an inspirational guy. I mean, the guy can charm the stars down from the heavens. But it was around March of last year. Well, actually 2 years ago, so March of 22, where there was some issues that happened with a former partner. And I said, you know what, I know the technology well enough that I can go out and I can build these things in custom portable units. And I think it's the better way to do it. So I started exploring how to do that and got involved with my team that we have here. And for about the last year and a half, we've really just been putting all these pieces together. And now we're ready to launch. We have our systems designed. We've done most of the engineering. We've got most of the systems quoted out. So now it's just a matter of acquiring the necessary funding and building these systems, because all it is a more advanced, or not even more advanced, it's just more pieces of the same system behind me. So it's not like we're recreating the wheel or redoing anything. We're actually we went from small to big, and now we're going back to small again, because it's all about decentralizing and putting this technology in people's hands so they can process the waste on site, because it kills so many birds with one stone, right? You're not paying for transportation costs anymore, burning all those fuels. The energy created, we're able to actually remove the bad actors. So during one of our steps, the mercury, the sulfur, the chlorinated compounds, all the heavy metals, they all become oxidized and end up in the water. So they're not in our fuels. So our fuel has actually been rated cleaner burning than natural gas as far as volatile compounds and all the other components. So I don't know if there's a cleaner burning fuel on the planet than what I'm holding here in my hand. There's no bad compounds in there. The only byproduct that you're going to have from this that people might complain about is CO2. But anybody who understands regenerative agriculture knows if your systems are healthy, CO2 isn't a problem, right? It's just we've destroyed our soils, and our soils are our biggest store of carbon, and we've destroyed our soils with poisons, pesticides, herbicides, and fake chemical fertilizers that the microbiome in the ground doesn't recognize anymore. So our system heals all those issues, and you could put glyphosate into the machine and it's going to dissociate it. So if you have contaminated soils, you put the contaminated soils in, you don't even run the full process. You just go through the second stage of the process and you're able to remove all that, and you're left with clean, pristine soil. Well, I wouldn't say pristine because the microbiome is gone, but all the heavy metals, all the bad actors, all the contamination has been stripped out of that dirt, right? Because at that point, it's really just going to be mud and dirt. And then you can re-microbiome it with a compost tea or whatever manure, back guano, whatever you want to use, right? So it's the system to heal the system.
Very cool, and it sounds like it's a great solution that works alongside, some of these systems that are essentially, not regenerative, sustainable, or even anywhere remotely. We're just very much extractive industry, but it's helping to make us help a transition away from some of these really big, you would call them just degenerative systems, right?
For sure.
So I want to unpack this a little bit on as you've shared this story, which is really great. How your dad kind of had this moment, this spiritual moment of like an awakening, essentially, of like, you know what, this is what you're going to be called to be doing, and it was just a moment of like, okay, I can devote myself to that. I can move something forward and keep on working at it. And it seems like it's now turned into a generational mission, right? As you've taken this on and have worked to do this. You had mentioned just very briefly, and I want to see if we can unpack it a little bit more. The reason or the desire to move modularly into more smaller systems. But could you unpack that for us? How did you arrive to that solution or that thought of like, oh, maybe this needs to be a little bit more modular or a little bit more set up in such a way that we can put these up and take them down and put them in other places and put them all over.
Yeah. So really the idea has been building for some time. Way back when in the early days, we did a conceptual design for essentially the DoD for forward operating bases. Because one of the most dangerous jobs in the military is actually the garbage man. Most people don't know that because they're taking the garbage on and off the base, and they're the ones that oftentimes they have a set route that they're the ones that run into issues, right? The soldiers that are taking the trash. So we did a conceptual for the military. It never got built, but essentially all their showers, all their sewage, everything would be pumped through this machine, all their waste, and they would be able to create fuels right on site. So that, when I was just getting started, that was when they were looking at potentially building that. Like I said, it never got built, but that was always triggering me to think outside the box. And then I guess it was about 2015, there was a huge grant program. Yep.
Those would have to be modular or have to be able to be taken up because of bases having to transition in. Okay. So that kind of sparked a little bit of it. And then, keep on going.
And I think it was 2015, there was this huge grant for cleaning up the plastics in the ocean. I think that's actually where the ocean cleanup got a lot of their funding from. But I took it upon myself and I did a conceptual where basically you would build one of our small little refineries on a floating barge. And it would basically be like a floating gas station where it would just sit out in the middle of the ocean. The boats would go around, collect all the plastic, bring it to the system. You would process it in the system, and then boats, as they were driving by, you would top off their tanks, right? Because a big ship could burn this in their engines all day long, the straight run fuel. And for the guests, I'm holding up a little bottle of our crude oil that we produce, but it is a light, sweet crude. You can see it's not thick, it shakes. So you can burn this in a ship engine all day long. You don't have to refine it down to the gasoline or the kerosene. You can burn the fuel as is. So you could literally just collect all the plastics in the ocean. Doesn't matter if there's dead fish or whatever floating amongst the debris, because the machine can handle those. You could turn them into waste, and then you can fuel the ship. We were rejected for the grant. I was very surprised. I was like, there's no way they're going to reject this. This is the perfect technology for it. But we were rejected. Said it wasn't what they were looking for. But that kept my curiosity going. Like, hey, this is the way to do it. And then I was at Jim's facility, or our facility. I'm a partner in Food Forest Abundance. So I was at our facility in Orlando, and I was telling some people about the technology and about the history to get to where we were. And somebody goes, "Oh, you should launch a new company and put these in every single food forest that you install." And it just triggered me. That's it. We got to make these small enough so they're good for a farm, or they're good for a single refinery or a slaughterhouse. So it's perfect size. So we've designed 3 size units. One is about a 1 ton per day system. It's going to be mobile. It's going to be in a 24-foot cargo trailer. One is going to be in we're calling it, and that's the Eden Energy System Light Mobile. We're working on the name, so bear with me on it. But the next size up is the Eden Energy System Light. And that's going to be in one 40-foot container. That'll do about 2 to 2.5 tons of waste a day. And then we're going to build what we're calling the Eden Energy Systems, which is going to be in about 4 containers, and that'll process 7 to 10 tons a day. We are going to go bigger eventually, but those are the systems that we're building now. And then, of course, like if a city wanted to do a custom solution, right? Hey, we need a 2,000 ton per day facility. Okay, we can do that too. That's a custom design though, and the city would take care of it. We would just have to design it for them and do everything for them, right? Instead of them buying an equipment, it would be more of a partnership, right? The way we kind of did things in the past. But when you're working with a municipality, it's a different story than a private enterprise, right? Municipalities really, because of taxes, they have all the money they really need, right? So it's a little bit of a different story with that. But yeah, so with these systems, I mean, now there's really a system for any size waste producer. A 1 ton per day system might sound like a lot, but if you have a 60, 70 acre farm, you're probably going to be producing close to 0.5 ton to 1 ton a day, which also means you don't have to run it every day, right? You run it 3 days a week, 4 days a week. And depending on the waste material that you were using, you could either create a lot of fuel or a little bit of fuel, but either way, you're getting rid of your waste.
Okay. Well, and so I'd like for the audience, because I could see the progression that you've kind of made into these modular systems, but kind of coming from your different challenges throughout this process, if you could maybe just hit on maybe 1 or 2 of some of the biggest challenges, and tell us a little bit about the journey of like overcoming that challenge. Because as entrepreneurs, of course, we bump into things, and we got to learn to work through and solve and find solutions for a business on the go as we're building a business. So if you could share with us.
Yeah. So, I mean, as any entrepreneur is going to tell you, the 2 main things you have to be a successful entrepreneur is belief in what you're doing and the perseverance to get through the challenges, right? And the support and the way you get to those positions, in my eyes, can come from a lot of different directions. For me, one of the only reasons why I can be here is I have a partner in life who's also my partner in business, who believes in me and believes in the technology and believes in what we're doing equally as much as I do. Right? If my wife and my life partner didn't believe in what we were doing and didn't allow me to push through these hard times that we've been through, times where, hey, there's no money in the bank to pay ourselves, or hey, we're running low on cash, we got to figure something out, because we, as entrepreneurs, those are times we all run into. If my partner had said to me, hey, you got to go find a job, I wouldn't have been able to be here, right? She believed in me the whole time, as we pushed through, as this was still in the concept, putting every penny that we had left into building this organization, because that's what it takes, right? To be a successful entrepreneur, in my eyes, unless you have the financial backing of someone who's really wealthy, it requires dedication, sacrifice that most people would never understand, right? That's why there's only so many successful entrepreneurs out there, because it takes a dedication, it takes a drive, it takes a motivation that a lot of people look at you and say, oh, you're crazy. Right? I mean, I've had people tell me for years that I'm crazy. Just go get a job. Just go. You'll be so successful. Go get a sales role. You'll be so successful. You'll make so much money. But am I going to be fulfilled? Am I going to be happy? Am I going to be satisfied with just being a salesman for whatever company I go and work for? No, because I've been walking up a certain path my whole life, knowing that I have a skill set that can make a major difference in this world. And as the expression goes, the only people who can change the world are the ones who are crazy enough to think they can, right? And I've been given gifts. I mean, I've worked in some of the most prestigious labs in the world, doing research with them: Brookhaven National Lab, MIT, Harvard, Yale, Tubitak, the National Lab of Turkey. I mean, as a young entrepreneur, I'm only going to be 35 in a couple months. I've been given opportunities and blessings that most people wouldn't have until they're towards the end of their career. And mine's just getting started. And with all the training, all the teachers, all the experiences I've had, the knowledge that I've learned on how to convert waste into energy, how to create other technologies, I've been given blessings that most people could never dream of. And I need to make sure that those blessings translate into something beneficial for humanity. So for me, the desire, the drive, that's where it all comes from. And to me, the only way you're going to be a successful entrepreneur is if you have that spark in your heart to say, this is my drive. This is why I'm here. This is why I need to keep pushing forward. And maybe it's because you have a vision for these candles, right? You have 3D printed candles that you want to sell, or you have a fragrance or a soap company or whatever it is that you're doing. Just because it's not changing the world doesn't mean you can't have that spark or compassion, right? It's what you have the spark and compassion for. But if you don't have that drive, you don't have that mentality where I'm all in to be a successful entrepreneur, I don't think you can have it both ways, right? Unless, of course, you're starting from a place where you have unlimited cash and funds, where you can just throw money at all the problems and not have to get through it. But I mean, there's days where you wake up where you're like, oh, God, can I keep pushing forward? Can I keep doing this? But you just have to flip that switch and say, I don't have a choice. This is my life. This is my work. And this is what has to get done. And you hear a lot about that work-life balance. And I definitely can understand people saying like, hey, John, you don't have a good work-life balance. And I say, yeah, but there's not many people that are trying to do what I'm going to do. So for me, work-life balance is work right now. I have a mission, and we didn't really get into the story about where the name Eden Energy came from. Maybe we should restore it back to that hero's journey. I think I mentioned to you, or I might not have mentioned that. But yeah,
we started getting into it. Let's talk about it, because I think it's the perfect time. It might even help us to understand, that process of keeping the right mindset through this and being resilient through. A lot of times we could use our passion and our drive to create something to get past. I mean, it doesn't always work out in that way. We also have to have coping mechanisms to get through different things, but having a strong desire, passion for this, which I know you have, can get you through and keep you resilient through the really, really tough days of what I call like the valley of death of the business, where most of us, we're walking through it, but we're on this like spiritual high a lot of times through this valley, right? And it's what helps us get through that, right? Is to be able to, especially as regenerative entrepreneurs, those that are listening to this podcast are people that are building regenerative enterprises, that are taking on the risk to of building an enterprise that is doing good for our people, planet in the future, and is building regenerative economies, right? So that type of work is different than, I would say, someone that, you mentioned like a fragrance or just, and not to say that a fragrance company couldn't imagine a regenerative way of doing their business, but essentially I haven't seen it all the way yet, right?
It'd be an interesting one. Maybe that's next on the list.
Maybe, right? So yeah, let's dive into that story. How did the Eden Energy brand name come to be?
So it was one I was still deep in with Food Forest Abundance. And as I mentioned, my partner Gözde, she's from Turkey. So she had traveled back home in February of 22 to see family. And I was going through some stress. The company was doing great, but I was working way too hard. I mean, I was probably putting in 80, 90 hours a week trying to get the organization really where it needed to be. I was burning myself out. I wasn't enjoying it anymore, right? It was more just things had to get done, and I was getting really stressed. And I reached out to my sister, who does medicinal ceremonies with all the ayahuasca and the sitting ceremony therapies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, I said, look, I had watched Fantastic Fungi, became a big fan of Paul Stamets, and researched a lot of what he was doing with psilocybin mushrooms and helping with the rewiring of brains and helping create motivation and excitement, basically, and helping to reset your psychological well-being. So I decided, you know what, I want to do a hero's journey. And I spoke with my sister, figured out different ways to do it. So I lit all sorts of candles all around our apartment. As I mentioned, my wife was gone, so I had the place to myself. We've got two small animals. We have a small dog named Odin, right? And Odin is, in mythology, the most powerful Norse god, right? He's the king of the gods of Norse mythology. And then we have Atlas, who is our Bengal cat, who looks like a little jaguar. And for the Mayas, the jaguar is the most sacred animal. So I had Atlas, who's the Titan who holds up the world, and Odin with me. So their names were very powerful, and they were with me during the ceremony. And I had my notebook, and I was writing down my intentions for this journey, and my mantras, and asking, and the questions I really wanted to ask myself. Right, and I took 7 grams of mushrooms to the face and laid down in bed, and I had on meditation music, and for about 4 or 5 hours, I was having really intense hallucinations and visions. But one that just kept replaying over and over again was, it was me and Gozday wearing these long flowing white robes and walking with our animals and just walking through the forest. And there were 300-foot tall trees and beams of light coming through the trees, eagles soaring through the canopy. And I just kept hearing, "Restore Eden, restore Eden." And that's just all I kept hearing. And Gozday and we were walking through the Garden of Eden. And at the time we were with Food Forest Abundance, and it was talk about using regenerative agriculture to rebuild the world. And it's obviously something that we're really looking at. But I knew that it was something bigger than that. And we started getting involved and started working on names for the technology. And it was like, this is Eden energy, right? We're creating the technology to restore Eden. So Eden Energy Solutions was just born. And that's what we do, right? We take a hazard, which is waste plastics, mercury, all these harmful compounds, and we turn them into clean burning, carbon neutral, regenerative fuels and organic fertilizers with no harmful byproducts in an extremely energy efficient way. The next size up, the full scale Eden Energy Systems, we believe, because we're adding wind, tulip turbines, little oscillating turbines that will stand on the post, and solar panels, we believe we're going to be able to get the energy efficiency of those units over 100%, wow, which would be really exciting. So, right now, without those additions, we've gotten 92% energy efficiency with all the different process loops and capturing of waste, heat, and energy. So when we talk energy efficiency, I mean, it's off the charts energy efficient. I mean, it's mind blowing. And that's all been third-party validated. So this is, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but to me, this is the technology to restore this planet, to put us back on the right path, to get rid of all the pollution. I mean, the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment, all that contaminated soil, you could have just scooped it up, put it in dumpsters. We could have came with our machine, processed all that waste. We would have dissociated all the harmful chemicals. You would have been able to put the dirt right back where it was. We would have captured all those chemicals in their oxidized state, so they're no longer even harmful. Most of them would dissociate into their simpler compounds, so that wouldn't be even the same chemicals anymore. They would be dissociated chemicals, right? The solution to pollution is dilution. So we'd be able to get rid of all those. And you wouldn't have had to blow it up and poison half of the most fertile area of the country.
I don't know what they were thinking, but yeah, it was a huge disaster. And just to see the local population there have to
suffer
to not even really understand what was the implications of what's going to happen because of
down the road
with what happened. And I think a lot of that was because they didn't have a proper solution, right? They didn't know, and they got scared, and so let's just blow it up,
Yeah.
Like
100%.
So what do we do? What do we do? They probably were panicking. The press were they're probably scared of the press. They were probably scared of all the implications that and I didn't want. They should have got slapped harder than they did with with what happened. But if there was a solution out there, which there is, that you're proposing here, and could be a potential for something in the future where we have that type of
Oil spills, easy,
spill, or
right?
yeah.
An oil spill, all the oil floats on the surface. You siphon all that water off. You process the oil through the system. You actually clean that oil, right? So,
Mhm.
like a refinery is actually going to, people have told us, hey, the big oil is going to hate you. No, big oil is going to love these machines because they have all this really harmful waste oil that they can now use our equipment on site, process their harmful waste into clean energy. They don't have to pay to get rid of this harmful waste anymore. They make it into clean energy on site. No more issues. But
Is
an
it?
oil spill, yeah, go ahead.
Do you feel like it's going to be utilized by big oil and the big industry?
I think they're going to be one of our biggest purchasers because everybody's coming down on big oil, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not an advocate for fossil fuels, but I know how important they are to our economy, to our world, to human growth and sustainability, right? Without fossil fuels, the world will come to a grinding stop. It's just something that we have to accept as reality.
Mm-hmm.
Solar, I mean, if we went full nuclear and there were nuclear facilities everywhere, we could probably get away with a lot less fossil fuels, but nuclear has been demonized and a lot of people think it's a lot more dangerous than it is. But that's a different story, not for here nor there, right? But fossil fuels fossil fuels still provide 85% of this country's energy, America's energy, 85%. You're not going to get rid of that anytime soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these big oil companies, they need to clean up their image. Well, now they're turning their most harmful products, which are called tank bottoms, right? So tank bottoms, you see those big, huge tanks sitting on the side of the major highways. All the really heavy, nasty oils, they float and sink to the bottom, right? So all that really thick tar with all the mercury, the sulfur, all the really volatile organic compounds, the polyaromatic hydrocarbons, they all are sitting in that heavy sludge that's beyond toxic that the refinery has to pay a fortune to get rid of. They can now process that material through our system, create the clean, regenerative, carbon neutral fuel oil from their waste. And now they don't have to get rid of it because everything is fully cleaned up. Everything is dissociated. All those harmful compounds have been oxidized, so they're no longer harmful for the environment, right? People forget mercury, sulfur, these are all naturally occurring compounds. But when we concentrate them, that's when we start having issues. But if they're in their natural oxidative state, they're just a natural compound in the environment. It's all about
Mm-hmm.
turning things back into their less harmful state, right? So we got a little sidetracked, I guess, but where did that whole conversation? Big oil. So like an oil spill, right? The Gulf of Mexico oil spill, all that oil that is filled with water, we just siphon that off and put it into our machine because we're a hydrothermal process. We use water in our process anyway. So all that oil that nobody can use, nobody can process because it's filled with oil or water, we can run it through our machines, create a clean energy product from it, sanitize the water, separate everything, and have perfect product afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the ultimate technology to clean up an oil spill. So for environmental hazards and environmental cleanup, this is the tech for getting rid of waste on site. The Super Bowl, for instance, creates 40 tons of waste in one single day.
Whoa.
Just 40 tons, and just process all that waste and create clean energy from all that waste and power the facilities, power nearby businesses, whatever it may be. So that's where this, I guess, excitement comes from. We have a solution, right? And I mean, just as a perfect example, we have a really simple website right now. We made it on GoDaddy. We didn't feel the need to invest in a major website right now, right? Mm-hmm. And people come to me and go, "Oh, you need to upgrade your website. Your website's horrible." I'm like, "Why do I need to upgrade my website? We have something that works. We have a product that works. We don't need that right now because we have a real solution to all the pollution." And we are actually working on upgrading our website. So that might have not been the greatest example, but right now, I mean, we have a real solution to all these major problems, and that's why we're so excited.
Very cool. And the just on that industry alone of like environmental waste, right? That my dad was actually a health and safety engineer for Safety Clean, right?
Okay.
Which was low level radiation certified waste. So they would do all sorts of different waste, right? My dad would he has stories of like some weird things coming in from the government, from big oil companies, from also oil companies were sending a lot of stuff as well. So, and they would just bury it or incinerate or try to do different things, right? But in reality, it was just putting it in a very special landfill, and that's not really a solution. That's more of just a hide it in a dark closet type of solution, right? I mean,
100%.
Yes, do it safely so you don't have groundwater contamination, or you're trying to do that, but you're still just putting it in a. It's not a solution. This, to me, this feels like a solution. This feels like something that needs to be applied in that sector, in just being able to manage our waste within a farm or a village or a neighborhood, right? That's wanting to be more responsible with the way that they're using their waste.
Sure.
And really,
one of our
it doesn't become waste at that. It doesn't become waste any longer, is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the commodity.
Yeah. It's that
Waste becomes a commodity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Produce no waste. It's that permaculture principle, right?
Yep.
And
stacking functions.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely this model definitely stacks the functions of what's available to us. Sorry, I cut you off.
I was just saying, you were saying power or community. So let's say you do have a community that wants to be sovereign, right? And let's say it's 1,000 home community, right? Now, 1,000 home community might not produce enough waste to run a 10-ton per day system every single day, but they'll make enough waste to run it maybe at 5 tons a day, right? Mm-hmm. If you had 5 tons per day of a high yielding feedstock, oils, greases, plastics, things like that, you'd be able to power over 800 homes per year on one system, as long as you were feeding it for 270 days per year at 5 tons a day of one of these high yielding feedstocks. That's 800 homes that you now have full sovereignty over. That's full electric, right? Not with the house having solar panels or whatever it may be to add extra electricity to that home. This is full grid power, 800 homes per year. So as long as you're feeding it the right amount of converged carbon to convert, right? You're not just feeding it water. I've had companies come to me and say, hey, we have this algae. Do you think you could process it? Yeah, I can process that algae, but it's 1% solids. It's 99% water. So all we're going to get is a conversion on 1% of material, right? You're not going to dry algae, because algae is water. It's basically just water, right? Water and cellulosic material. So there's a lot of waste out there that, you could process it. Doesn't make sense to process it? Probably not, right? Not probably not, sometimes not, right? And a perfect example is biomass, right? Mm-hmm. People say, oh, well, you can compost, you can take all your leaf trimmings and everything, and you can process it through the machine to make energy. I said, yeah, but don't you want to put that back into your farm and just chop and drop and just create mulch and good homes for all your soils? You want to process the harmful stuff. I want the waste. I don't want the stuff that goes back into the land and creates abundance, right? I want the stuff that you can't put back into the land. I want your plastic water bottles. I want your sludges. I want your waste oils. I want the stuff that causes environmental issues, because the machine can handle all that at the same time. It's not like you can only run oil or only run plastic. A perfect example was before Thanksgiving, we were trying to put together some content, and we never really got the video that we wanted made. But we bought those frozen Hungry Man Thanksgiving dinners, and we just cut up the whole frozen tray, the plastic film and all, the food and all, the box and all, and we threw the whole thing in, and we turned that into clean energy. So, people really shouldn't be eating those anyway. So maybe it's good that we were processing those, but we can do it all at the same time. So we have the solution. And that's where I think the difference is, where I'm able to get up every day and get through it a lot easier, I think, than most, because It's not like I'm trying to build something that I believe in. I'm working with something that's real. The technology we know works. Now we just got to build the business around. And that's where I think the compassion and motivation and desire comes from.
So hopefully at one point we wouldn't even need to be able to, like if our economy is transitioned away from these forever chemicals, these forever, the big waste industries, and we were able to, would you be, I mean, is this business, how do you see the business transitioning as we create less and less waste that is needed for that type of system? Ideally, that's hopefully what we want to get towards, right?
Yeah. So it actually brings up an interesting point. So a lot of people have said to me, well, what kind of patents are you going to apply for and things like that? How are you going to protect the technology? And essentially what I've said is, look, nobody's really going to be able to copy this for several years. So we're going to have a leg up on the market, right? We're going to be first to market, first mover. We're going to be the name really behind this technology. But there's so much waste out there that is being created every single year and is already existing that there could be 15, 20 companies doing what we're doing, and we still wouldn't be able to process all the waste, right? It's just this technology is amazing, and we're going to be able to do a lot of good things with it. And Eden Energy Solutions hopefully will be a huge, successful, enormous enterprise that cleans up environments all around the world. But just to put it into perspective, there is 300 million tons of waste plastic alone produced every single year. New waste plastic, 300 million tons every single year. Right. That's a lot of waste. And that's just one feedstock. We're talking in this process, all the waste hires, all the waste slaughterhouse waste, all the waste municipal sludge, so everything we flush down the toilet. There's always going to be material that needs to be disposed of. There will never be a time where we're a waste-free society, because the stuff we flush down the toilet, that's your waste, right? We're going to create food waste of some kind or another. There's going to be household waste. There's going to be waste that we're going to produce, no matter how clean and regenerative we get, right? We're always going to have those wastes. And especially when we look at the landfills, I think there's something like 12,000 active and inactive landfills in the United States. The tallest mountain in Florida is a pile of garbage, right? It's a landfill. The highest point in Florida is a landfill, right? So once it gets to that point where, hey, we're processing all the waste, then we go and we start mining those landfills, right? We start taking cleaning up all the waste and pollution and all the gunk and everything inside there. So you're never going to run out of waste. There's just way too much of it. And once waste becomes a commodity, because waste is going to become a commodity at some point, because people are going to copy what we're doing. People are going to start doing it. And I hope they do, because to process just 1% of all the waste plastic in the world, we need to produce like 4,000 machines.
So does that mean 1% that in the future you're going to be paying me to take my waste?
Potentially. And certain waste you do. I mean, the industry has changed a little bit. But remember, for a long time during the biodiesel push, restaurants were getting paid 50, 60 cents a gallon for their waste cooking oil, right? And situations like that will come back again, right? I mean, it's going to cut to a point where maybe,
but like
maybe you get a few dollars per ton.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, you do get you do get that in a lot of ways in a lot of industries where they're needing to offload a lot of waste. Or a business is wanting to take that waste, or you're paying for it, but it's not being utilized in a very efficient way at this point. And this is a much more efficient way. we are at time, and I do want to kind of end us in a space where you could share the
Sure.
how we can stay in touch, how we can learn more about Eden Energy and get involved in it, in what ways that people can engage with your work and Eden Energy.
Sure. Well, right now we have a Twitter and an Instagram, at Eden Energy Solutions on Instagram, and Eden Energy X on Twitter, or X, right? We couldn't get Eden Energy Solutions on Twitter, unfortunately. So we went with Eden Energy X and then Eden Energy Solutions on Instagram. We're not really we use the Twitter a little bit. We're really starting to post now on Eden Energy Solutions on Instagram, starting to share a little bit about our message and what we're doing. I myself am on Twitter and Instagram at Jonathan Appel, so JONATHANAPPEL 13 on both of them, right? And 13 is the sacred number for the Maya, 12 joints in the neck, right? So that's where that comes from. So Jonathan Appel 13 on Instagram and Twitter, edenenergy.co, right? .co. So edenenergy.co. Is our website. Like I said, we are going to be upgrading that here shortly, but there's a way that people can reach out to our main info, and I have access to that. So if anybody's reaching out, wants to get in contact, learn more, or see ways to get involved, they can always reach out there, or they can reach out to us on one of our social media accounts as well. But we're really excited for what's coming. We've got some really big things planned for 2024. We've got some really interesting connections to some really amazing groups doing really big things, including a group out of the Mediterranean who's putting together a clean ocean fund, and they want us to be the headline technology on that fund. It's associated with a certain royal family in the Mediterranean. So we've got some really cool things coming down the pipeline, and our first system, we're finalizing the engineering on the tanks and drawings next week. We got some of the preliminary drawings earlier this week, and then they're going to send us the final engineering drawings next week, which means by mid-April, the light mobile, the 24-foot containerized trailer version will be completed, and we're going to be ready for demonstrations. We're going to be doing a little road show, taking that places to all over. So we're going to be doing a lot. So we're going to be sharing a lot on social media over the next few months, updating everybody on what we're doing. We are going to be launching a crowdfunding of sorts. We're going to be launching that next month to build one of our bigger systems. Just raise the funding that way to build that system and allow people to come and be a part of the company. We're not trying to, as I said, be greedy here. We want to share this with the world. We've got a lot of other technologies in the pipeline where we're going to try to copy the Elon Musk model, where you have a holding company, and the holding company owns all the IP, and then you build separate companies off the IP off the holding company. We've got 4 or 5 other techs in the pipeline that we're super excited for. We've got some really intelligent engineers on our team. We've got some of the builders of the builders, right? The top tier builders of the world, fabricators. So we've got some really cool technologies that we're going to be rolling down, some for electric vehicles and all these other things. So if people are interested in science, I'd highly recommend checking us out. We're going to be doing some cool stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited to keep on following the story as it progresses, Jonathan. And thanks for sharing with us and opening up the wonderful world that's you're creating and helping us to be a part of it. So if you haven't given Jonathan's business a look, Eden Energy, or you want to reach out, please do. We will actually have those, the Twitter, all the other ways to get in touch on the show notes and in the description of this podcast. So please make sure that you do that. And let's keep the conversation going, Jonathan. We would love to have you back on, maybe in a year or so, or whenever you feel is best to come back on and share.
Yeah, I would be honored. And Joshua, it was amazing meeting you the past couple of weeks and getting to know you guys better as well. And it was a lot of fun today. So thank you again for having me. And we look forward to really making a difference for this world. And there's a lot of people out there doing great businesses for regeneration. And it's where our mindsets need to be, because we need to leave this planet cleaner for the future generations. And even though I'm not a big believer in all the hysteria around climate change and what's really causing it. I do believe that the world needs help, and it's entrepreneurs like yourself and the people that you bring on your show that are really driving that change. So thank you for everything you do, and I look forward to hearing more people on your show.
Thank you. Thanks, Jonathan. All right, everybody. Bye for now. Ciao.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the podcast, and it really is a blessing and a pleasure to bring each episode to you. So what'd you think? If you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a review or follow us on the podcast platform of your choice. Each review really does help us further the reach of this podcast and move our mission forward to build regenerative economies in every bioregion. If you have a suggestion or feedback for us, please let us know in the open and free Regenerative Business Economies ecosystem, known as Regen B, which is linked in the description and in the show notes of this episode. Regen B also has an awesome community request form that allows you to suggest guests. Register to be a guest on the podcast and share your own Regenpreneur startup story or any other suggestion you might have for the community. Without your feedback and requests, this podcast and community wouldn't be what it is, so please let us know. Now, this may be bye for now, but remember, it doesn't end here. It has only just begun. The regenerative economies of the future start now with you.